Barbarian Fist is a relatively new act hailing from Oslo, Norway, having come together back in 2012. Earlier this year, the trio of guitarist and vocalist Alexander Mora, also known for Time and Goddess, bassist Per George Krokstad, and drummer Peter Hokos went into the studio to lay down the 4 songs that would make up their debut full-length effort, The Whorelord Cometh. Unfortunately, this outing had slipped under the radar for most since its release. But does it deserve to go unnoticed, or is this actually something fans of the style desperately need to check out? While The Whorelord Cometh may only be 4 tracks long, this effort has a good deal of variety across the gritty, hazy musical landscapes. The title track, for example, illustrates that early fantasy movie environment quite well, sending you back to the primitive days with a cloud of slower-paced hooks and hypnotic sludge-filled glory scattered about, especially in the main verses that channel a hint of early doom rock ideas fans of Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin would warmly embrace, despite the not-so-subtle misogynistic lyrical themes that can appear from time to time. Of course, there's also the laid-back guitar work that shows up once in a while, such as this solo around 7 minutes, not to mention the slow doom metal pacing at the song's closing. Meanwhile, there's Bear Destroyer, the slowest offering of the release, not to mention the longest at 12.5 minutes. Unlike the other tracks, this one relies largely on the drums to bulk things up and keep the infectious rhythm going, though the deeper bass presence still remains, even sometimes fighting with that instrument for dominance from time to time. Normally that's detrimental, but the song has more of a layer of the Minotaur-esque war vibe to it that the looming darkness of war, which clouds the musical planes, nicely amplifies, along with the louder buzzing distortion of the guitars. It does pass eventually, throwing some groove-heavy riffs with a hint of hardcore attitude into the mix prior to and during the guitar solo, just before the trudging doom metal shift about 8 minutes in. While that song manages to play off an ominous sensation nicely, Wargasm doesn't fare too well. While it's still a good song in every right, this one just sounds dark with no reason for it to whatsoever, forsaking the choking haziness the band establishes everywhere else. In fact, it gives the track a crisper output, removing some of the distortions from the guitars for what sounds like something Monster Magnet would release in one of their lighter moods. It's almost the polar opposite of No Brakes on the Rape Train, which, despite its name, is actually an instrumental that seems to play off of The Whorelord Cometh, right down to the name being part of the song's lyrics as well. This has more of a southern rock vibe to it, especially at the bluesy start, where you find yourself sitting on the porch, watching the wind and sand whip by gently against the hot desert sun. However, the deeper in you get, the more of a progressive trait you'll pick up on that works alongside the sludgier presence. The Whorelord Cometh drips with 70s and 80s fantasy atmospheres, capturing the spirit of classic films and stories of the style, such as Conan the Barbarian and the Beastmaster's manliness and misogynism, both obvious and implied. Barbarian Fist have clearly created something not quite meant for the easily offended, even though there's little to really get worked up over. If anything, it's the sort of release that gets your testosterone boiling, speaking to the most primitive side of man in almost every way possible. If you like your doom and stoner metal as heavy as it is gritty and dirty, then the Whorelord Cometh will have you picking up your sword, adorning your favorite loincloth, and bracing yourself for the impending war against the neighboring tribes.